Hey guys, Adam here. As you can tell, it's the next day. Uh, for some reason, something happened to this last video, part 6. It didn't record the first 2 minutes, and that was probably my intro. Now, a lot of you are probably cheering because there's 2 minutes less babble you have to listen to. But I just wanted to intro this video real quick. I'm going to go through automation. I'm going to go through what's on my master fader, or my mix bus, or whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going over to the my mastering project to show you what's going on. Don't really know why OBS decided just not to record any audio for the beginning. I do have video for some reason with no audio, but who knows. At any rate, enjoy the rest of this video. I'll try to cut in here at a point where it makes sense. Take it easy. All right, let's get into some automation here. I will try my best to if you see me looking over, I'm looking at my OBS screen to make sure that you guys see what you should be seeing and not what I think you should be seeing. So, starting out, in the beginning of the song, there is because I have all these analog plugins, one of the drawbacks to all these analog plugins is they add a lot of hiss. And that was because in the olden days, you go to, record on 2-inch tape in Analog Studio. That hiss is part of everything. Everyone wanted that hiss. They wanted to capture that warmth, and the hiss added what we call vintage sound these days. For people who think digital is too clean, that's just kind of how it is. So what I found though is in the beginning when just the keyboards were playing, the hiss was really, really, really loud. And so I decided, you know what, let's get some of the hiss out. So I automated a bunch of things here. I automated my clipper, I automated my drum bus, I automated my bass bus and I think that's it. Yeah, just to take the volume out. You can see this, bring this down. You can see this volume envelope right here. I just cut it all the way down to infinity and bring it in right before the bass comes in. And the way that it's brought in doesn't really add any hiss, but what you get there is when you listen to just the keyboards here, all that hiss is gone. A couple of you guys listened to a mix right before I released this one, this final one, and one of the comments was there's a lot of hiss, and I said, well, is it through the song or just in the keyboards? And they're like, just in the keyboards in the beginning, but it was pretty loud. So I took that out. That's a really, really, really basic one. Some stuff that I will do from time to time will be automating the drum overheads, either to be a little bit more, and ignore my comments about LCR panning for this one. What I'll do is I'll automate them slightly less mono during the verses, or slightly less stereo, more mono during the verses, and then automate them fully wide 100% during the choruses, and it kind of just brings it out. I didn't think we need that. I think in this song, the way the song was written, the song naturally just grew, and the drummer, Spike does a great job. Very dynamic drummer, does a very good job of filling that and making it bigger and making it louder as we go on, and then bringing it back down when it needs to be. So I decided not to do that on this song, but it's a trick you can use. I've also, one of the songs I took everything and made it mono during one verse, and then towards the end of the verse brought everything out in stereo and it just opened it wide up, and that gives kind of a cool effect too. All right, on to automation. I'll just do this by instrument, and that way I can open up the envelopes. You can see a little bit better. So in the bass, I wanted to bring up the slap when the bass slap first comes in all by itself before the instruments come in. So I just did an envelope here, 2 dB up, nothing major. In the key solo, we decided to bring the bass a little bit down, so I brought it down 2 dB. And that kind of, I need to make this bigger so you can see the actual movements, because we have this down to infinity down here. So I brought it down 2 dB, and then towards the end of the chorus, I have a fill that I'm playing. I'll solo just the bass out, and I just did an envelope to bring up the fill coming back in. And then back to zero. There's another bass fill, and I bring this out and bring that over. You can kind of see the envelope here. I wanted to bring accentuate this fill out, because even though it came through pretty well and all the compression I have on it, I just wanted it to be brought out a little bit more. There's a tom fill kind of right at the end, you know, these three drums here that you can't see because it's my camera's in the way and I can't scroll anymore. Sorry about that. Let's see what I can do. So this tom fill here, you still can't see it. All right, never mind. So anyway, let's see if I can, what I can do there. Yeah, this is too much. So anyway, I wanted to bring the space fill out. So here's what I did there. I just kind of drew in some automation points and then brought it back down after the fill. So in the context of the mix, it sticks out a little bit. It's only going up 4 dB. Kind of let that growl stand out a little bit more. All right, so guitars, we did something interesting for the second, or the third verse actually, where, remember the keyboard video that we did, we have all these keyboard tracks. Where are they? We have all these keyboard tracks down here, and with all the keyboards and all the guitar, it was too much. So we decided to, what I did is I pulled the left guitar out, and then I automated, you know, just a transition up across a measure or so here. Over so you can see it, to bring it back in. So the start of this, there's no left guitar, and then you'll hear the guitars open up, and I'll solo just the guitars. So you just hear the right now. And now the left will start to come in. And it's interesting because now you would think that, well, we wanted to make it less busy, so now we bring it in when there's even 2 more keyboard parts. But it's funny the way the ear works is that you focus on something, and now you're focused on the left keyboard, and now you don't even really realize the left guitar comes. You just realize it kind of opens up a little bit. So I'll play that whole part with all the keyboards then. Didn't even really notice it, and then when the strings come in, the strings on the left and the whirly on the right, they come in and they kind of just poke out in that 50% area. Just kind of makes the whole thing flow together a little bit better, and it's really not busier. Other automation we did, I wanted the guitars up, coming into the last sections of chorus before the keyboard solo out of the bridge. So I just did a 2 dB bump on both guitars here, and for guitar, that is it for guitars. Keyboards, I have some volume automation on the end. There were a couple notes at the end that Ray was playing during the fade out part. I don't think I can move this over any further. You can kind of see it. Those last dun dun dun, you know, notes, they were sticking out a little bit, so we took that down. And then I have a bunch of volume pan automation going on in this section going on into with the B3 and the slide and things like that. I have some kind of weird stuff going on here. There was a weird echo I didn't like, so I kind of took it out and I kind of put it back up and put it back in. I'll play just the keyboard. And then I brought the volume back up. So on this B3, if I can power off the volume automation, this is really too much. So with the volume automation on, I took almost all that out. the effect I wanted to go for was like an echo delay, bump, 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 kind of, accents on the first couple notes and bringing it down. I thought that worked pretty well on that one. And then we panned the this 50% left, and then we pan this 50% right during this section. So between these two, you'll hear in a second. It gives it just a wider feel, and then it gets it gets this guy out of the main center of focus, because that's where the slap bass and the guitar, it just gets it off to the side. And then I go back to center panning for the rest of it. So I think that's it for keys. I went over that little funkadelic vocal part. I just panned that to the right, and I don't know why I did that, because it was a single channel. It's the only part it's played in. Some of these things, they just kind of happen as they happen. You don't really know why. But now we get to the interesting part. We get to the vocals. So, as I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of sends that I have for. I have a short verb and a long verb. And what I've really done is I've the verses have the short verb in it, and then we get into this second verse has a little bit more of the long verb in it. Third verse has, and then I get to the point where everything has both verbs in it. So if we listen to just the vocals, it's hard to pinpoint out what's going on, because the verbs they're all kind of all over the place. But if you look at these envelopes, they're kind of drastic. So in the first verse, I'm doing just short verb. And this is on the entire Vox channel, not individual tracks. So then the second verse, I'm doing more of the long verb in the first half, or minus 12, and then I'm bringing it up to minus 6 in the second half. Mountain top, sitting pretty. So kind of bringing it up, kind of bringing it up. In the second half, spun around to the clock went under the moonlight. Now it's this big open verb, and you can really hear the tails. Especially when I stop, you can really hear the tails, and that kind of brings up the whole, you're on the mountain, you're screaming out and things like that. And then for the third verse, I took the short verb and I left it in the whole time. Took the long verb and I just did a build up through the entire thing. So you can kind of hear that come in and come in and come in and come in, and then it tables off. So the first chorus then has both the short and the long, and they're minus 6 and minus 5, so they're pretty aggressive. Moonlight again, moonlight again. And then we have even more tails and things going on. So I did that, and then I took it out for the first part. I don't have any long verb in, and short verb is way down on negative 16. So it's a pretty dry vocal here. Spinning circles. Not a lot of tail at all. Get a piece of the pie. She had me shaking the shakedown. Satisfied. And now both verbs come in full force. She's on the mountain top. So there's that. There's some lead vocal. This is when I took the send out in the beginning. So I have that on there. There's some panning on the lead vocal for that the word again right before the keyboard solo. And let's see. The only other thing is this first right before the first chorus, I switched panning on some of the background vocals. Wild one. This is all on the right. Wild one. Blinding. Raising a come with a high note here on the left. And now we go back to center. So really, there's not a lot of automation in here. I've had songs where I've ridden faders, and done things like that. Where I have a one of these Behringer X Touch ones where I sit there and I ride the vocal fader in touch mode and bring up certain notes. But I think this song specifically, I spent more time up front editing the vocal and getting the volume levels to match so that I could do more things with effects like the verbs and more things with background vocals bringing in the songwriting process than I could do, than I had to do, to get instead of getting like faders, writing notes and things like this all over the place. And this one isn't as poppy of a song as some of our previous ones. So the vocals, I've had comments, rock guys were like, "Oh, the vocals are too loud," and then the pop guys were like, "Yeah, the vocals are too soft." So I think we hit a happy medium for what we're looking for, at least, in there. So that's what we have for automation. Really not a lot. There's I know guys go crazy with automation. I'd like to say it's because we're getting better as songwriters. We've been together as a band almost 10 years now. It's like 8 or 9 or so. And I think we've gotten better as writing and recording and the whole process of putting a song together, where instead of, we get 100 tracks and we have to whittle it down to 50, we start with 50 and then we go from there, kind of thing. We kind of write the songs to make sure the verses aren't the same and we have different parts and the builds and things like that. So, hey guys, it's Adam again. It's the next day. I'm editing these videos and I realized I missed a crucial part, and one of the main reasons I wanted to do this automation video for part 6. So I'm recording this after the fact. I'm going to edit it in. You'll see it all in a row. I'm wearing a different shirt. You can obviously tell it's a different day. I also want to go over a couple things right at the end. So let's get to this one automation piece I want to show you. All right, what we have here is the keyboard solo. What I did is I have a volume envelope that's up to 5 dB, and then drops back down to it's actually at -1 as the solo begins. Here's a trick that I learned. I don't even remember who I learned it from. If you automate in a song, if you automate something you want to stick out, if you automate the volume of that and dip it up a little bit in the beginning of it and then put it back down to its normal place, it'll stick out in the song, and the human brain will tune into that sound. So let's say you have in this case a keyboard solo. You mix it at your normal volume, go through your normal mixing process, get the volume that you want it and sits in the mix, and then after the fact automate up the first second or two of it. And automate it pretty good, 3-6 dB, somewhere in there. And what will happen is the listener will automatically hear that and tune in. And even when the volume drops back down, they'll still focus on that because they heard it and it's something that caught their attention. You can do this with things like shakers, tambourines, a lot of percussion stuff, any little fill. I did that in the bass fill that I showed you earlier on in this video. I want to play you the keyboard solo and listen to how it sticks out, and then I'll solo it and play it for you there. So here's with the entire band coming up to the keyboard solo. Play it one more time. It's real subtle. But what I'm doing is I have an envelope here. It's 5 dB up, and then it's 1 dB low because when we're mixing this after I put in this automation, I think we tricked our brains a little bit too much. We thought the keyboard solo was a little loud. So the easiest way for me to do that, instead of turning down the track volume, was just to take the envelope down one. But listen as it comes in, and it's going to be some silence here. It comes in loud, and then it drops like 6 dB. And it's only that first phrase that it's loud. Here we go. One more time. And I'm leaving a lot of silence in the beginning on purpose to get your ear reset. So that's it. The trick is, the way it tricks your brain is you almost don't even realize the volume drop. and that was a 6 dB to volume drop. It was +5 all the way down to -1, and there's not a whole lot of compression on this. There's only 2 to 3 dB, 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction on this track. But it's the way the human brain works. It's tuned into something, and then it locks in on that, and it hears it, and then it listens to it. So that's my tip. Sorry I missed that in the first video. Sorry you have to look at my super bright yellow shirt. But I hope this helped you, and I hope you can find ways to use this in your own music. All right, before I go, I wanted to apologize for a couple things and kind of explain some things that are going on in the video. First, apologize for my babbling. I'm not a public speaker. I don't do this, on a regular basis. I work in IT. I'm in meetings all day long, but it's kind of a different. I'm out of my comfort zone here in talking just to a microphone with no feedback and nothing, nothing else going on. So, apologize for the babbling. Apologize for the ums and the and the and the silence while I'm putting my thoughts together. But hope you got some interesting information out of here, something you can use, or you can tell me that I'm wrong and maybe I can learn something out of this. That would be great as well. The one thing I did want to apologize for, I have some kind of weird thing going on in my setup where every time I either start playback or change tracks, there's this weird digital high-pitched glitch. I don't know where it is. I'm still debugging it and trying to figure it out. I've tried to go through, and it's only on the microphone track for some reason, which makes even less sense to me. So I've tried to go through and edit it out, but there are some cases in these videos where you hear that, and it's like here, there. Apologize for that. Nothing I can really do on these videos. I don't want to redo them just to get that out of there, but didn't want to apologize for that. Anyway, here's the rest of the video. Hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. That said, the one last thing I want to look at in this project is the master bus. And I will pick, this third verse looks good. I'll turn everything off except for my last, I put L3 Ultra Maximizer on here just, as I mentioned in the drum video, just to bring the overall volume of things up, because when I turn effects off, and especially in drums, when I took out the parallel compression, it was really hard to hear, and I still wanted the sound to come through on the video. So this is an artificial limiter. It's not doing any gain reduction. Let me get the whole band in. So it's not doing any gain reduction at all. Maybe a 1 dB here and there on the loudest parts, but I just wanted to throw that in there to bring up the overall volume. First thing I do, I like the SSL comp. And here's a trick that I found. I set the attack all the way up, release all the way down. I've also set the release to auto. I've had different results. I think this song being more pumping, it works better on all the way down. Threshold I set up to be 2 to 4 dB of gain reduction in here at the loudest part in the song, which is either this one or the last chorus. We'll stick with this one. Here's a trick I learned. I don't know who I learned it from. It was some random, I think it was a Waves video that came out on their YouTube channel, to take your makeup gain on your bus compressor and put it all the way down. And that way you can push more into the master fader, and you don't have to worry about doing things like selecting all the tracks and pulling all the faders down and running into problems like that. I run into what I call push the faders up syndrome, where I'm pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then I'm like, crap, I don't have any room now, and I got to move everything down. I try to keep all the faders as unity as gain as possible. They're pretty good. I'm looking at going around here in the drums and things. They're okay. But this trick is this first song I did this trick on, and it's really, really, really helped me. And take that makeup gain, put it all the way down. If you need to at the end, you can put a limiter to bring it back up. But for the most part, I just turn my speakers up, and it sounds a lot better. Next thing, I use this pull tech, and I use the trick where you set it to, it's like 1.8 here, 2. You set the boost and the attenuation at the same. You can either do this at 30 hertz or 60 hertz, and this is for low end. And then I also do a boost in the 12K range, just for some sheen on the top end. So without it and with it. Plus it has a cool meter. So that kind of, it focuses the low end, and you can mix into that. And one thing, I'll stop the music here for a second. I put these on when I do a mix. I do some gain staging. I do the what's the name of that group? There's a I can't remember the name of this YouTube channel, so sorry guys that I've screwed up your name. But there's a YouTube channel, and the guy had a how to make your DAW into an audio analog studio, and I went through that video, and I'm like, this actually makes sense. What he does is he basically simulates like plugging into a preamp, plugging into the console, going out of the console, and going to tape, all with analog plugins. So I'd use a chain of like the 1073, the Kramer HLS, the Kramer tape, of course, and either Abbey Road saturation, or I have another one, a Waves NLS channel, and I'll run those plugins through all my tracks and then render all my tracks out before I start any mixing. I'll gain stage first, run those 4 plugins through, and I gain stage the whole time, and then I start the mix. I'll do a fader mix, and then I start with these master fader plugins, and I mix through these plugins on at all times. And really, I'm not doing much. I'm only doing 2 or 3 dB of compression on the mix bus. This doesn't do that much, in the 30 hertz range. It's only settings of 1.8 and 1.5. It's really just little things that I'm doing. So the next step in this is this re-EQ, and I'm doing a very, very slight high pass filter at 15 hertz, anywhere from 15 to almost 30, but with the Pultec on there, I've pulled this back down. Probably don't need this. The human ear can't really hear below 20, but it kind of helps tighten things up just a little bit. I have a boost for bass at around 60, 57.6 is where it just happened to hit. I have a cut right around 300, and these are not very big. This is a 2 dB boost, this is a 3 dB cut, and I have a high shelf of 2 dB, anywhere from 8 to 10K. This one happened to be at 8.5. So before and after on this. And then after. Very, very, very subtle. So next one, surprise, Kramer Tape Master. And I want to hit this one pretty hard. There was a mastering clean and open preset that works pretty well. And before, and when it flips over, I'll do after. After, very, very subtle. Even though I'm hitting this right at the 0 on the video meter, very subtle. The last one I do is this Greg Wells Mix Centric, another Wave. I decided to standardize on Waves plugins because there's so many different ones out there, and there was a couple Waves plugins that I really liked, and I decided to say, you know what, let me see if I can get it done with Waves. I used their Black Friday 50% off deal, and I kind of went nuts. Horizon bundle and 6 or 7 others that weren't within that bundle. And what I'm going to do next for the next year is weed out the ones I don't want and see if I can get those. It ended up being cheaper to get the ones I thought I needed in the Horizon bundle than it did just getting them one-offs. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, what this plugin does, it adds EQ, saturation in the form of harmonic enhancers, and compression in a single dial. I'm going to play before and after. The only other thing I needed to do on this was I put a little bit of input, and then I dropped the output, 1.4 up and then 4.2 out, just because I want to level match and make sure it's the same level. But listen to what this does to the mix. So here's before. And then here's after. It adds a sheen. It pulls things together in a way that regular EQ and compression just weren't doing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play this with this on and listen to how the mix falls apart almost when I turn it off. So here it's on. And here it's off. It's not even if the first thing you notice is the muddier, but then you also notice the cymbals aren't really there as much, and the kick kind of, it goes into the background a little bit, and the hi-hat kind of goes away. I really love this thing. Don't overuse this. You can really cook a mix real quick. I usually leave it at this setting, and I just pull it in from my previous project, and I don't touch it unless I really really need to. But we're playing pretty much the same instruments and the same instrumentation throughout every song, so I can use almost the same settings. And we recorded almost everything in the same session, so when it gets time to mix, I can almost use the same settings. So that is the master fader and all the master fader plugins. The next step is my mastering chain. I'm going to switch projects here, and I probably don't have this set up to go out to reroute. All right, this is going to be hard to show because I have my mixer in. Let me see if I can get this to look a little bit better. All right, so here's the as much of the waveform as I can show in the background. And then my meter, I'll set so I can see that. What I have is I have a mixing or a master project. I render everything down to just 24-bit stereo wave, and then I pull it into this project, and I have every song back to back in a different region in Reaper. Unfortunately, I can't show that the way I have it set up because of this screen thing. If you want a separate video on that, let me know. I can throw something together and do that. In here, what I have is just 3 simple plugins for each song. Right now it's Re-EQ or Renaissance EQ. I'll probably change that over to Re-EQ in my next mix. I'm doing a boost of very, very small, 1 dB at 150. That kind of pulls that between that kick and bass low end together. I have a cut about 500, and I move this around anywhere between 3 and 500 depending on the song. This sounded better at 500. I have another boost at 1K, exactly 1K, and this is again, these are small. These are all 1 dB boosts or cuts. And then my last one is a boost at 3500. I've done high shelves before. I've had problems with cymbals washing out with that, so again, I mean, these are. Let me leave the maximizer on there. I will play a heavier, faster part or busier part of this. If I take the EQ out, it's very, very, very subtle. And then compression using the SSL comp. And again, hitting that same. Don't want to get more than 3 or 4 to 1. Use a higher ratio here, and I'm using a slower attack, and I'm leaving the release on auto, and the makeup gain is only the volume match here. And then I use the L3 just to bring up the volume. I don't really want any attenuation here. What I'll do, I'll stop playing this. I use this WLM plus stereo. It does have a limiter on it. I set the limiter to -1, so that I'm not doing any. I really don't want it to hit this limiter at all. I want all the limiting to be done and the compression to be done outside of this plugin. This one I put on the master fader. All the other ones are an individual track. I set my target for -12 LUFS. And then the first thing I do when I bring a song in, once I get things kind of figured out, is I just run it through the entire thing. And this will pull in like a long-term LUFS. I only played a loud part, so it's at -11. You want to aim for -12 to -14. I've read a number of things on YouTube back and forth. Which one is better? Which one is more friendly for streaming? And I've just decided -12 is fine. Somebody wants to turn it down, good for them. But I'd rather have them turn it down than turn it up. I don't want to get in a volume war, but I also don't want to wind up in a kind of a crazy situation where it's way too low and somebody notices that and then skips the song. Something like that. Made up situations, I know. But if you play this all the way through, you'll get a long-term LUFS, and you want to aim for -12 on that. When I played this through, it's between -12 and -13. So I really liked where that was. I left it. And because of the way I've mixed, especially with that makeup gain on the master fader on the project, I only had to bring this threshold down to -4. I always leave the out ceiling at -1, so theoretically it shouldn't even hit the speak meter. It does every once in a while. So that's it. That's all I do for mastering. I really feel like the mix should stand on its own. You should be able to turn the volume up and let it go. I add a couple little steps in for just extra stuff, extra glue, extra enhancements, um, just to do that. Now, when I get to the point where we're releasing an album, I'm probably going to hire someone to do mastering for me and take these songs with a fresh ear and not with my um, jilted ear, I guess is what you want to call it. And they can work on some more EQ and compression to make the songs all sound more similar. We have a pretty similar sound the way it is, but so anyway, let me flip over back to my single camera here. I hope you enjoyed this series. This was a lot of fun to make. It was frustrating to make on some parts with dealing with OBS, but it's more of a learning experience. I'm an IT engineer, so I dig this stuff. You know, digging into a problem and solving it is kind of what I do, and I treat mixing like that as well. So that's why instead of saying, oh, you know, use your ears, I say, well, I go for 3 dB of gain reduction and I watch the meter. That's just kind of the way my brain works. It's going to work differently for other people. Hopefully these were able to help you. Again, if you haven't listened to the song by now, I don't even know what to say. I'm not going to beg for likes or subscribes or anything. I don't know if I'll ever do a video like this, but if you guys want to see anything, have any questions, especially if you want to tell me I'm doing something wrong, please do. I almost welcome that. I don't want to get no flame war or anything, but if you say, hey, you're doing this one thing completely wrong and you should be doing it this way, I want to hear that. I want to hear what everyone else is doing, because I'm still relatively new at this. I've only been mixing 6 or 7 years, and only mixing my band's material with the occasional random thing that I do here and there. But I don't run a studio for a business or anything. I frankly, some of the stuff I hear out there, I couldn't force myself to mix, but we'll see if that changes in the future. But for now, I'm just looking forward, mixing whatever we write and record and doing, and then a couple little side projects you may hear something about in the future. This is Adam from Underground Hive. Everybody have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. See ya.